Welcome to Malcolm and We, heard exclusively on malcolmpresents.com, a streaming platform heard around the world and beyond. And I'm your host, Malcolm Berman. The lower screen is my co-host, Yana Larson. And Yana, introduce our guest.
Yes, thank you, Malcolm. Today we have Millie Sweeney of Tennessee, and she is the Director of Learning and Workforce Development for the family run Executive Director Leadership Association, also known as FREDLA. Spanning the children's mental health and child serving systems, she has over 25 years' experience in navigating systems with and on behalf of families, advocating at both the individual and policy level, and building collaborations with professionals and systems. She specializes in grant and program development, staff supervision and training, parent peer support, and family engagement, curriculum development, and systems of care. Leveraging both her professional experience and personal experience as a parent of two children with mental health challenges, she consults nationally on parent peer support, certification, programming, services, and workforce development. She also offers curriculum and training on a variety of topics related to children's mental health and participates in research and policy groups contributing to the literature and field. For all this, she is well qualified as she holds a Master of Science in Clinical Psychology. Welcome to our show, Millie. Thank you for being here.
Welcome, Millie.
That was quite the bio.
In other words, what do you do?
That's always the question, isn't it? It's more of what I don't do. So in my role, I'm a former clinician. I haven't done clinical services in a while. My specialty and where I've done the majority of my work has been working with families and supervising those who work with youth and families. Within FREDLA, and just to let you know, FREDLA is a national family-run organization, which means that all of us have lived experience as parents. We're a small but mighty organization. We all also have experience in administration in family-run organizations. So we're an association of these organizations nationally. A family-run organization is one that their board, it's a nonprofit, and their board is 51% or more family members of children and youth with emotional behavioral challenges. And the majority of their staff, particularly their executive director, is also a parent. So they're very specific, and they're very impactful. And they range everywhere from having a part-time executive director to having like a $6 million budget and multiple offices, depending on where they are, and the type of work that they do. So in my role, I do a lot of training, which you heard, which I never thought I would do, but I love it. I oversee our parent peer support practice model. I'm the main developer and coach and trainer for that, and we have 9 sites, 9 states that use that as part of their competency-based trainings.
Not specifically, what type of children are you helping?
Yeah, these are kids up to 21. I mean, we know from research that the brain is not fully formed until about 25, 26. So when we say kids, that we could mean 21, we could mean 23. But from birth to then, who have challenges, depression, anxiety. You know, they may have a diagnosis or they may be on the cusp of having a diagnosis. My children have suffered with depression and anxiety. I have one who also has a diagnosis of ADHD and who has gender dysphoria, identifies as non-binary. So we serve those families to help them have information that they need, support that they need in order to make the best decisions for their families and get their children what they need to thrive.
Well, are these children either having difficulty in school, or are
At
they
school, always,
or, or,
always.
or are they involved with anything, with the law, or doing, misbehaving, doing, criminal activity, so to speak?
They span all the child serving systems. So we usually see them in school. It's the one system all of our kids go through, and it's so complicated to get what you need and to understand that system. So they're having problems in school, academically, behaviorally. They're getting sent to the office, they're getting suspended, they're not turning in work, they're having a hard time learning. There are a lot of learning disabilities that come into play. They may also be involved in juvenile court and have some type of delinquent charge, which of course those are status offenses, meaning that, curfew, it's under 18 where you have those type of charges against you, not when you're over that. They also may be involved in child welfare. So in the foster care system, or a victim of abuse and neglect.
So do the schools reach out to FREDLA to see if there's anyone that's able to help? How are you? I mean, because that would have been great for me back when I was a mother. And I mean, I am a mother. I'm still a mother, but I mean, back when my kids were little, and trying to navigate all of those issues that, as we were discovering, well, they were gifted, very highly gifted, but they were also having learning disabilities that even the gifted learning world at that time was saying, oh, well, that doesn't happen, but it does happen. And we had the hardest time being able to get IEPs and whatever to help with that sort of thing. But it was not easy.
They may call us, but anyone who calls us, we connect them with their local family-run organization. Most states have one, but not every one. But the states that don't, they usually have family leaders we can connect them with, because every state is different. Every school system is different.
How do they find out about you? Is it a parent that comes to you, or the school comes to you, or the local police authorities come to you?
It's word of mouth, and all those people who are looking for resources for the families that they're encountering. They start looking up, where do we get support? And hopefully the family-run organization pops up, or there is a family who's been more vocal, our family leaders that are out there who say, let me connect you. These are the people that do this. And they'll send, the family over there to be able to have services. And they provide everything from just giving a little bit of information and doing a warm handoff to a service that really fits, helping them identify, what's a good therapist? What are you looking for in a therapist? What insurance do you have? And trying to navigate that. They do that all the way up to being part of teams. They're part of crisis response teams. They're part of, if you've ever heard of wraparound, which is a particular model of service delivery, they're part of those teams that wrap services around families.
Is there a charge for your service or your people, or?
For FREDLA, we're a part of national TA centers. So a lot of times we can offer consultation and connection and training.
What's TA?
Technical assistance, sorry.
Okay.
Technical assistance, it's usually TTA, training and technical assistance, and it's funded usually with federal dollars to help with particular populations and with services and systems.
Well, particular populations, what does that mean? I mean, ethnically involved, or
children and youth.
It's one?
Yeah, but I mean, there are all types of populations that are targeted by those type of centers. That their whole role is to support effective practice, so that kids, youth, adults, whoever it is that you're working with, are able to get what they need when they need it.
Are you able to, do you feel like you have much reach into rural communities, or are you mostly in the bigger cities, or are you just everywhere?
Everywhere. Everywhere. It's across, geography. Mental health and mental illness is,
Yes.
there's no boundaries on that. It doesn't matter if you're gifted. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter the color of your skin or where you live or how
Or
much
your
money.
SES.
Yeah.
Well, how long has this been around?
Family-run organizations have been around forever. As a matter of fact, it was family leaders and those organizations getting together that helped develop some of the federal systems we have now, like SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. It was families that pushed for that, to have some type of structure at the national level, at the federal level, to really look at what is needed and have some oversight and some input into services for youth and families.
Now, what seems to be the largest type of groups that are seeking help with you? Is it the autism, or is it just the strain of living in today's society? Or
I
what
think a lot
type of problems are?
that goes into it. I mean, I think that we are better now at recognizing symptoms, whether that leads to a diagnosis or not. So I think that we do see more of that. I also think we're more stressed. I mean, if you think about when you were in school and when you were a teenager and what you dealt with, and then what our teenagers deal with today. I have a 17-year-old and I can't even imagine going through school and having to deal with some of the things that they've had to do. Oh, in particular, the COVID kids, the kids that were out of school that didn't have interaction. What we're seeing, and I hear this from school professionals as well as mental health professionals, is that we have a whole group of kids that are a little bit stunted. They're behind in their development, their social development, their emotional development, not just academics and learning, because of that. It was at a pivotal point in their life where suddenly everything stopped. And so that they're trying to catch up.
Wow. What are they finding that seems to be helping with that situation?
Connection,
Yeah.
patience, finding different ways to approach learning to try to escalate that, giving more time to learn things, giving more opportunities for interaction. I mean, most of our kids all their interactions are digital as
Yeah.
opposed to in person. And so even going that route and trying to
When
engage
my
them.
kids were younger, they were just starting to come up with the idea of having intervention specialists coming into the school, the schools, and there weren't very many of them. So I'm wondering if you're finding as in school systems as they changed to address the different things that have happened since my kids were that age with COVID. Do you find that they are having more people coming in as aides, intervention specialists, whatever, to help with those particular kids that have been very affected by that?
School mental health has grown exponentially. It's such a critical piece. There's a national center that and all of the national centers that we work in, there's a focus also on school mental health. Again, because that's the one system all of our kids go through, and they tend to be identified first in school. That's where problems start happening. So
Yeah.
that's a really big thing. It's a great way to meet kids where they are and families, but traditionally families have a difficult time navigating that system, for
Mhm.
their own reasons. Parents who didn't complete school or who had a bad experience in school, or they see something different. They have a different perspective than the teachers that are working with the child. So one
Mhm.
of the things that we promote at all levels is families should be partners. They should be partners in everything that we do. They have expertise. I mean, Yana, when you think about your child, about your child more
Mhm.
than anybody else because you see them across every single setting. That's expertise. That's
It was
actually
it
solution.
wasn't accepted back then. It was like I was a hysterical mother.
And so there's a historical view of parents as being the problem,
Yes.
when really they are part of the solution.
Yeah, they should be.
Yeah. So that's what we promote, and we help people find ways and systems and organizations and states to find ways to partner
Yeah.
with families. When that happens, you have the best outcomes. I'm not talking surviving, I'm talking about thriving.
Right.
Well, how much, I'm just wondering how much is overdiagnosis? I mean, I'm from another generation, so I know
Mm-hmm.
when, like the attention deficit,
Mm-hmm.
probably like about 25% of the kids that I went to school with had attention deficit
Mm-hmm.
because they couldn't, stay in the class learning one thing. They were disruptive. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them, after a while, became because the educational system wasn't creative enough to keep their attention. It was done by, it was done by rote.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, as a student, I'm talking about, and this is going back to the 60s. As a student, you had to sit in class and listen to what the teacher said. There was no interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the kids they say, that would run around or be disruptive, who
Yeah.
turned out to be very bright.
I think the
That is
whole
often
idea
the
of gifted,
case.
yeah, and
Because
not being challenged enough.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
educational system didn't
Yeah.
attract them. It didn't really stimulate them.
But when it comes to diagnosis, it's like with everything. We've learned more. The science has advanced. We know what to look for. We have better treatments. We have better approaches and medication. So we may see more people getting diagnosed. And is that because now we know what we're looking for? Is that because of the environment and the way that it's set up? It's so fast paced now. It's that has all changed. I mean, there are even arguments about, what's in our food and is that causing more issues? So there's a lot of reasons. I choose to believe that we have a better handle on what it looks like. And if we can catch that early and put something in place, and it's not always medication. My own child, we went for years addressing that attention deficit behaviorally, just adapting different ways, and to the point where they said, I really think that now I need some kind of medication. At that point, we had that discussion. So I think we know better now what
Right.
to
And it's
do.
not just medication. Behavior modification is a whole lot of it. And that's what we found really helped. Um, I like to say, or I have said, I think my kids went through their teenage years really early, way before they were teenagers.
Mhm.
So by the time they were teenagers, it was a piece of cake. We didn't have issues because
Mhm.
we'd already figured out a whole lot of things, and ways to modify the environment or the situation, like
Yes.
here are your two choices,
Mhm. And
Also,
sometimes that's all it takes. I
yeah.
mean, it's not, there's no magic pill for anything.
Mm.
The medicine itself helps
It's a
you to focus
tool.
on doing behavioral things that
Yeah.
change
Well,
coping
I'm
strategies.
trying to not so much with kids, but as I get older,
Hmm.
I mean, my generation seems to be we're over medicated because what happens if the doctor doesn't know, and again, I always say, tease them, I say, it's a practice of medicine. They don't really know what they're practicing because you come in,
Hmm.
and I'm in the senior world now. Uh, if they don't know what it is, well, it's, you're getting older.
Hmm.
It's a senior symptom and they want to give you a pill for this. But you take
Hmm.
a look at what the pill does. The side effects is worse than the disease that you have or they think you have.
Hmm.
Is
Well,
that
you have
how?
to be
A lot
medical.
of that has to do with who you're going to. If you're
Yes.
going to a medical doctor, they're going to have a medical intervention.
Hmm.
If you're going, and so it's really good, and this is so true with youth and families because every kid is different.
Yeah.
Every family is different, and you have to respect and understand the way that they work, their family culture and what works for them. And so you have to try different things. I mean, what worked for one of my children does not work for the other. and
right.
vice versa. So it's taking a step back and looking at all the different ways.
Look at the whole person
Yes.
and everything that is important to your own home environment and, you know, what
Right.
you like to eat
Yeah,
or not
I can
eat
see
or
that.
what you like to do or not do, and
Mhm.
figure out a way to address the situation and take care of the problem.
And it's different for every family.
Right.
It is.
Now, in this world, which I'm completely, I'm part of, because we're doing the Zoom type of cast. But how much influence is the internet? Is
Media is huge.
things that the kids see that I have no idea what they're looking at,
Mhm.
and
Social
what
media
I, yeah.
is an issue. There are pros and cons to it. I mean, like with a lot of things, but I know that there's a lot of initiatives right now to focus on what is good screen time, what is not good screen time. How do you protect your child? How do you use the internet effectively? How do you recognize what is real information and factual and what's not?
Hmm.
And so there are whole curriculum out there. There are programs that target that. There are what we would call social marketing um, ways, to change beliefs. It's not purchasing something. It's about understanding how things work and trying to promote positive things. But it's an issue. It can really impact, particularly the vulnerable kids that we work with that have they're trying to fit in, they're trying to belong, and so they're naturally targets for being victims, taken advantage of, being bullied, and so we help them find their voice,
Yeah. Well,
have a
I
say
can
in life.
I can see also some of the programming which they have out now.
Mhm.
I mean, I was looking at shows, and you can literally count on, but you need more than two hands to find how many people were shot and killed.
Yeah.
And even in the cartoonish type of thing, it's
Mhm.
people are being blown up. It's becoming commonplace.
Mhm.
And also the sexual morality has changed. It's so much more open but commonplace. I watch some of these, college shows. They
Mhm.
supposedly the kids are in college, and the term is they're hooking up every other night with another guy or another gal, another woman.
The
What should
cultural
you
norms
watching?
have changed,
And,
as other things have changed. It's a matter of and what our focus is making sure that parents have as much information as we can provide them so that they know what their options are and they can choose for their family what is best, what works best for them. Everything from TV consumption, what you watch, to what you eat, to how you're going to address disciplinary problems, how you're going to address someone, if your child has OCD, and they are repetitive and they're doing things and they're obsessing about things and having very compulsive behaviors. What do you do about that? You have to make sure families have as much information and they have someone, this is where parent peer support comes in, someone who's been through that themselves who can walk with them. Because our systems don't talk to each other. They use different languages. They're very complicated to access, when it should be easy for our families to talk to the school and then talk to court and then talk to their pediatrician. And behind the scenes, those people are talking and coordinating. That's the way it should be. That's
Do
what we
you,
want.
do you all feel like you're, I don't want to use the word battle as much, but do you feel like you're making a big change and a lot that you can feel good about, or do you feel like, oh my gosh, there's just so much
Oh,
to
I
do?
definitely think there's change. Just the fact that we now have parents, families, young people using what they have been through, their negative experiences, their positive experiences, challenges, triumphs, to help other people. And it is a workforce. It is a profession now, peer support, and there are career ladders, and their expertise is known. I think that we still have stigma around mental health. At some point, it would be so nice just to talk about health. It's just health. I mean, the brain is the only organ that we separate from the rest of the body. Why do we do that? Because one thing impacts the other. So
And
I think
the
that
brain
they
controls
probably,
the body.
yes,
If
but
every,
now there are so many spaces now that we were not in before, where now we're welcomed and we're invited. And there are even places where nothing is done unless you have a youth and family member perspective involved.
Mhm. Now, as far as you personally is concerned, do you deal with the individual families or the children, or you deal with more of the concepts of putting the program together and getting.
I don't do as much of that I don't do that direct work anymore. What I do is I help those that are helping directly.
The supervisors,
Um,
the t
I help inform them, support them, train them, um, help with policies. I do a lot of, I've more gotten into research. I operate, or not necessarily operate, I facilitate a national family research partnership that brings together researchers and family leaders. And we look for ways for them to collaborate so that families are informing what's being evaluated. And it's not just what someone thinks should happen, but the families actually say, no, this is actually what's important to us.
so,
This is what we need data behind.
so do you have like the individual workers coming to you sort of like to help them problem solve, to get advice on their
Not
individual
specifically
cases?
to me, but we make sure that their organizations are prepared for that.
Mhm.
If a student is a college student, is there a particular concentration or degree or something that would help them to be better teachers, better school psychologists, or whatever? Or is it just all sort of like embedded in those programs now? To
It's interesting that you say that because I think that's an area that we need to grow into is
okay,
secondary education. We need to have courses that are about understanding the family perspective, understanding the youth perspective. It needs
mhm.
to be around the system of care philosophy and how to partner with youth and families. There are some very strong organizations across the nation who that is their focus. And I mean, we could do a whole degree on that.
I
Uh,
would think so.
but
Yeah.
right now, it's just a matter of going into mental health, and I would encourage them to volunteer, look for internship opportunities with those family-run organizations and those youth-run organizations, because that's where they get steeped into the idea of it takes all of us. We're all pieces of a puzzle. And if one is missing, one perspective's missing, one piece of expertise is missing, you'll never get the full picture. So having families there and as part of everything from discussing ideas to developing programs to implementing and evaluating, having them there when policy and funding decisions are made is truly a way to get to more effective use of funds, effective
Yeah.
use of time.
Professional development certification too, I imagine would be helpful.
Yeah, how
That
closely do
depends on where you want to work. I mean, there are all kinds of, I have a master's in clinical psychology. My whole idea is, oh, I'm going to do testing and I'm going to, my life took me in a different direction. I did therapy for a long time, but that has helped me in having that. So if you're going to be a teacher, just make sure you pull in some of those mental health pieces because the school was never set up to be a mental health place.
No.
But they see our kids and they see what they struggle with and they see what the families struggle with. And so having school mental health adds on that aspect. But that's still not a teacher's role. And we're asking them to do so much of those things when what we should be doing is setting it up where those who focus on particular things are able to do that. Every system has their mandates and their purpose. And that's why it is a puzzle.
yeah, but
Everybody has a piece.
it seems almost the entry point for finding out about the child, it through the teacher, because probably a lot of families who have difficulty with their kids really don't want to admit to it, don't want to say the kid is, needs this or that, because there's sort of like a shame type
Mhm.
involved,
There's a
or
stigma,
the
for sure.
stigma. And also some of the parents, to be a parent, you don't have to be qualified for anything. Uh,
Parenting is the hardest job you will ever have. There is no book that you get, there's no manual. And then if your child is neurodivergent or
Yes.
your child is experiencing some type of mental health stressor and challenge, there's no supplemental manual that comes along with that. I mean, it's figuring out as you go, which is why it's so important to connect with people who have been through that
and
and can walk alongside you.
how is your group funded?
We are funded, FREDLA's funded in lots of different ways. We're very lucky that we do have diversified funding. We have contracts with individual organizations or states. We receive federal funding by subcontracts, meaning that the TA, the National Technical Assistance Centers we work with, they directly receive the funding, and then we are subcontractors and partners. We get donations. We have some things that have regular renewals, like our practice model sites for parent peer support. We get it different ways. Most of our family organizations,
Believe it or not, our time is up. Number one, if someone wants to fund you, donate, how could they do that?
they would go to our website, which is www.fredla, FREDLA.org.
And they would also find out more information about your programming.
Yes, and you
And
can
the
reach
same,
out to us anytime.
and if a parent or a school wanted to contact you, they would go through the same way. They have a way you have.
Yes, we have a way to contact, and you can also just send an email to info@fredla.org. They can reach out to me. I mean, like I said, we're small but mighty. There's only 5 of us.
And just a personal question, how much of these problems do you take home with you?
Well, I work from home, so I never
No,
actually.
you know what I mean is that you take that you take personally, because it must be
It's all personal to me.
it must be hard sometimes to see certain cases, certain people, or certain
It is. You have
and
to develop boundaries and
yeah,
what you can and can't do.
right.
You
I
can.
bet there are lots of joys too, lots of
One of,
success
one of the
stories.
things I always say is that you may be the person who has planted a seed, who has done something, or maybe watered that seed, but you may never see the flower.
Yeah,
So we all have a role to play in people's lives.
but
The puzzle.
since our time is up, I thank you very much
Thank you.
for your work. And I know I was a substitute teacher for a few years back last century. But I know how difficult it is to work sometimes to work with kids.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it's so
So
much fun
worthwhile.
But
too.
when you
Worthwhile.
break through, it's really a feeling of accomplishment.
And to see them thrive and to see
Right.
them grow and
And we must have you on the show again and Yana will keep in close contact with you.
yeah,
And
I'd
if you
love
ever
to.
want any information, let us know and we will promote it on the show.
Thank you,
I'll
Millie.
send you something.
But
Yes.
thank you
Thank
again,
you.
Millie. And
Mhm.
it's want everybody to know you're watching Malcolm and We on malcolmpresents.com. Bye, guys.